Welcome to Conversations and Connections to Amplify and Inspire. I'm Kerryn Powell, and this is the second series of my podcast. This season, we're taking things to the next level, exploring how simple introductions and a curiosity to learn can lead to extraordinary moments. Together, we'll uncover stories, celebrate the transformative power of human connection and how it drives us to collaborate, contribute, create a better future and influence change in our community. I hope you enjoy it.
Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. Dolly Parton said that, and maybe she had heard about my business, Your Time Matters, which I started in 2013 and have now evolved into a business networking community in Melbourne. And knowing time is our most valuable resource. My community provides opportunities for business owners, professionals, and change makers to come, learn, and grow as they blend knowledge acquisition and networking at the same time. After years of hearing stories from talented business leaders and owners trapped in the relentless grind of traditional hustle culture, sacrificing their health and happiness, I know there is a better way. And that's where the concept of healthy hustle resonates deeply with me. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Nicky Miklos-Woodley, a seasoned business leader with 20 years or over 20 years of experience in leadership and sales. Hi, Nicky.
Hello, it's so wonderful to be here.
It's great to have you here, and I'd like to congratulate you on authoring your book, Healthy Hustle, the new blueprint to thrive in business and life.
I take it with me everywhere I go.
I also absolutely loved your TED Talk, The Art of Healthy Hustle.
Thank you.
And I really love the way that you challenge the conventional hustle culture and provide practical steps and insights that align perfectly with my mission of making our time matter.
Yes.
Since 2015, you've been empowering service-based businesses to move from chaos to clarity, giving owners and leaders the time and freedom they crave through practical, real-world strategies. You also have a podcast, Smart Business Growth, where you dive into strategies for sustainable growth and leadership and provide listeners with practical advice to help them thrive in both business and life. How did you get involved in your business and see the need to write your book?
Wow. Okay. So first of all, thank you so much again for having me here to talk about this, because it's such an important topic and it's very, very close to my heart. So back in 2012, I was, in corporate. I just stepped into a new sales director role, leading a really large team. I was studying positive counseling and psychology at uni, or positive psychology and counseling, I should say, at uni. I was organizing my wedding. I was doing all the things. And I was really there for everybody and everything around me. And I found myself burnt out. So that was my first experience in terms of this pattern of pushing too hard. At the time I was 32 years old. I had a successful career. I was still going places. I had future vision of stepping into my own business. There was a lot that I wanted to achieve. And yet my only definition really of success was push, push, go, 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 say yes to everything, wear that badge of busy as a badge of honor. But it left me feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and to a point where I physically couldn't go to work for a couple of months. But what was really interesting to me as I look back and through that experience is that it didn't end there. I didn't go, oh, okay, I got burnt out. I couldn't work. Cool. I did go, I better change some ways of working. But then I found myself falling into these other patterns. I had a panic attack so bad that I was taken to ER. We thought something else was wrong with me. I had pneumonia from pushing too hard when I was sick, and I knew instinctively, intuitively, I needed to not, but I was asked to work, so I kept pushing, and these patterns of pushing too hard, they sort of accumulated where I went, There has to be a better way. You mentioned this in the opening. Why is it that to be successful and have career progression and, all of those things, I actually keep falling into these patterns where I'm impacting my health, risking relationships, all of the different things. So this is a really personal mission for me since then. So the last 14 years to find out and explore what is that better way? What does it look like? How can I turn my habits of unhealthy, hardcore hustle into habits of healthy hustle? Because I really believe that we do still need the hustle. We just need to find a different way to bring the hustle so that we can thrive in business and we can also thrive in life.
I can relate to that. I was teaching full time and had 2 children, and my husband was traveling a lot, and I got pneumonia and I had 6 weeks in bed. And it was at that time that I realized something had to change, because when it starts affecting your health and it starts affecting your family, something definitely has to change.
It really does. And our bodies are going to tell us to stop, even if we keep trying. We can't push. Eventually, something is going to happen. And this, unfortunately, is where, illness happens. I'm one of the really, 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 really lucky ones as well, because I didn't get any ongoing, illnesses or it's almost like I caught it. And it's a journey. I'm still changing the way that I work, but I'm definitely a lot better at it. But there's we talked to Christine in the book, who was a nurse for 20 years, and she worked in cardiothoracic unit, and she saw people coming in for things like cardiac I don't know all the technical terms, but really serious illnesses in emergency. She's now a wellness coach because we talked to her, we interviewed her on our podcast, and she said, I could see the trajectory, all of the things that led them to be, in this bed in front of me, seeing the family and the impact that it had on these grieving families, and the uncertainty and turmoil in all of their lives. And if we had have just been able to focus on prioritizing life and health as much as business and career earlier, they may not have ended up there. So she changed her whole career to dedicate to health and wellness in the workplace. And it's just another example of why this work that you and I are doing, like, your time does matter. So where are we investing our time? And yeah, it's super important.
So what are some of the healthier work-life balance strategies have you put into your business?
So in our business and in my business, our whole business is built around healthy hustle. I check in every single week at a minimum. Am I keeping my hustle healthy? Even things like I have a decision triage. Is it going to help me achieve things that I'm going to say yes to? Because one of the key things we need to do to keep the hustle healthy is be really intentional with what we say yes to and what we say no to. A big part of falling into this trap is we keep saying yes, yes, yes. When I think about all the times I fell into the patterns of pushing too hard, it was because I said yes, where I really could have looked at it a bit more intentionally, said no, or replaced it with something else. And so I think, we've got to look at, what are we saying yes to? My decision-making triage is, will it help me achieve my goals? Is it going to bring me joy, and how do I feel about it? Does it make me feel good? And the third question, will I still be able to keep my hustle healthy? And if the answer is no, then it doesn't happen. So, you listeners and viewers might want to implement something like that. Whether you do as a decision-making triage or not, we have to check in regularly. Am I keeping my hustle healthy? But even before that, I think it's really important that I revisit this regularly, look at what does that actually mean to us? Because what my healthy hustle could be different to yours, could be different to somebody at a different stage of business or life, or, people who have young kids or older kids or no kids or partners. Like, it's all very unique and different. So I think the starting point is really defining what healthy hustle is. And that's really important to me and my business and my life, because it's not just business, it's also life. And then checking in regularly. And then the classic, the really simple things to introduce are, what boundaries do you have? and also what are your no-go zones around that. So, you know, for me, I've got soulful Sundays, nothing interferes with that. Or if it does, then I have a soulful Saturday instead. So that's a day a week where I can just decide what I want to do in the moment. I don't start work till 10 a.m. That works for me. It's not going to work for others. But these are examples of healthy hustle in terms of how we adapt it to our own businesses. And I appreciate, depending on the type of business, you know, there's certain flexibility in different areas that's not going to work with everybody. But define what success, define what healthy hustle is, and then check in and kind of intentionally look at how you're creating that.
I had never made a vision board until this year, and it took me quite some time to really think through it. I've always had a word, and that was easy for me to come up with. But this year I even had trouble with the word. And I did, in the end, land with intentional. And if you look at my vision board, there's photos of pictures of travel, fun times, creative time, community, learning, conversations, authenticity, and self-care. And that's been a really big one for me this year. I have done a variety of things for my own self-care because it was slipping past. So I absolutely hear you that we need to make space and time to really think about the life that we want to live and the business that we want to run. And as you said before, success is different to everybody. So I think that that's a really really valuable time to pause and think about what you want in the long term for yourself. And that's why your time matters, as in the name of my business. So yeah, go on.
Well, I also think what's important is we have to really take the time to think about what does success look like for me, and not just in business, but also in life, because there's a lot of subconscious bias happening. There's a lot of automatic, you know, we're taking on what success looks like based on what we've learned, but is it really what we want?
What are some of the initial barriers you faced when you tried to implement change in your work culture?
So in business or in corporate or both, do you think?
Did you find there was resistance when you were an employee to step back a little? Were you pushed into having to keep go, and that was one of the things that drove you to your own business? So both situations.
I think in both or either, one of the biggest barriers is our habits, you know, our deeply ingrained, not just habits, but our beliefs. You know, what we all have got beliefs that are driving our behavior. It's our thoughts that impact our feelings, that impact our behavior. And it's our beliefs that are driving our thoughts as well. And I think regardless if you're in corporate or business, that is something that everybody needs to kind of take stock around. Like, what does success look like? What does hard work look like? In a lot of instances, in this case, particularly with business owners, but also with leaders that maybe are, you know, in SMBs or corporate, there's this expectation on themselves because that's how they've achieved their success. You know, if we think about the trajectory of time in career or time in business and, you know, results, which could be revenue, growing team, the work that we've done, the way that we've hustled has actually given us that success. So this underlying fear or nervousness around, if I change, actually, can I still succeed? And I know I definitely felt that. Okay, I know that I've got these repeat patterns. I know I need to find a better way of working, but does that mean that I have to sacrifice what success means to me in career progression or business? So that's the first thing, regardless wherever somebody sits, corporate, business, we've got to really understand what are the beliefs that are driving. And the great thing is we can change our beliefs. Are they serving us? Once we know what success, holistic success looks like, do our beliefs actually serve us to get to that definition? I think in corporate, or if you're working in a business and you're not the business owner, absolutely there's factors where you have to potentially fit into a culture. And, you know, I want to encourage people to ask the questions of the decision makers, of the business owners around how that culture can be changed or adapted. It doesn't have to be wildly huge changes, but how can it be adapted? Because healthy hustle is something that needs to be embraced across all types of businesses, all sizes. And the beautiful thing, and I guess the irony is when you've got a profitable business and a happier team, and you have a happier team, you'll have a more profitable business. And that is what healthy hustle is. So, really look at your sphere of influence and control and what you can impact. And if you are, for example, if you have to do certain working hours, what can you influence within that time? Big thing for me that I took from corporate and then continued in business, and I work with this with my clients, are little things like micro moments. Micro moments could be 60 seconds, literally just 60 seconds in your day can really help create a shift in how we're feeling, move from a place of chaos and busy to a place of being mindful and what we call in the book living. When I worked in corporate, I had an alarm set for 9 a.m., midday, and 3 p.m. Everyone in the building knew, oh, there's the chimes. It's Nicky's 60-second meditation. Some people would come and join me. Some people would think I was a bit of a Fruit Loop and crazy and a woo-woo, wah-wah, whatever. Some people in the meeting, we would stop, set the alarm for 60 seconds and just focus on breathing out, breathing your feet. This is something I'd love for everybody to take away and try, and pop the pause button on this and do it, because you'll be amazed at what 60 seconds, 1 minute, how it can help shift the energy to move more towards that healthier hustle instead of that place of chaos. So that's an example of something I did in corporate and took into business. So with all of it, it's how can I work within my sphere of influence? Don't ever just think, no, I can't do it because it's too hard. Yes, it's going to be hard. And what can you do to influence? Because if we don't create change, and I truly believe we are the business leaders, we are in the time where we can create this change. We can break these cycles of hardcore unhealthy hustle. But if we don't do it, who is going to? It's up to us.
Now, there might be some listeners who are not really sure what you mean by hustle culture.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should have started there in the beginning. Can you just give a brief outline about healthy hustle? Because sometimes someone might be listening and they think, oh, my partner is stuck in that. Or is my partner stuck in that, or isn't my partner stuck in that? How can I support them? So perhaps firstly, what is the hustle culture?
So it's a really good question. And, when I think about hustle culture, I think about, I actually these days think about two spectrums, unhealthy and healthy hustle culture. So when I talk about unhealthy, hardcore or old school hustle culture, it is that push, 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 go, go, go till you drop mentality. It's the unresourceful definition of hard work, as in yes, it's tenacious and it's determination, but it gets to a point where it's actually impacting and hurting you, your health, risking your family because you're addicted to work, you're not at optimal energy. It's all the terrible things we talked about around burnout and that feeling of being, again, addicted to work. Because some people won't resonate with burnout. That's cool, but you might relate to being addicted to work or patterns of, also, how's your energy right now? Do you feel like you're at optimal energy or not? Because that is a different form of, you didn't get to burnout, but you might be playing in a place of unhealthy, unresourceful stress. So that's one spectrum. And then the healthy spectrum is we still have determination to succeed. We still want to create big, beautiful things in life. We want to build a business or, drive our careers or whatever it might be. And we do it in a way where we still have energy. We do it in a way where we have time to go outside and look up at the sky. And I've got this beautiful view in front of me of bush, we have that healthy aspect in terms of, who we're being. We've got time to enjoy life with our family. So many business owners go into business to create a certain lifestyle for themselves, or they've got a dream and a vision they want to bring to life, or they thought, I can do this better than anybody else out there. And usually it's a combination of two or three. And yet the business becomes verbatim. I've had a business client say a jail sentence. They're tethered to their business. That's an example of unhealthy hustle. And I think the distinction is, there's two sides of, I used to be the head of the hustle culture club, but I didn't realize there was that difference between unhealthy and healthy hustle. And so when we're aware of that, we can actually start making more conscious, intentional decisions so that we can still really have that successful business or career. And I don't know, enjoy life. Your time matters. It comes back to
Yeah.
that, doesn't it?
Well, one of the reasons I called Your Time Matters, Your Time Matters was that I've been to more than 50 funerals. And at the funeral, it's always about the relationships that people have had or the impact that they've had on their life. It's not about their 10x or the car they drove or whatever. It's always about their relationships. And so it got me always thinking about what sort of impact do I want to have on the lives of people around me, and why am I actually here, and what's life all about? And so for me, it is about making your time matter. And by doing that, you can learn and you can grow and you can achieve. And I watch how there's so many ways to live your life. And I'm not saying there's any right or wrong way, but it makes you sit back and look at other people's experiences and consider what matters to you. So if you are in a relationship or have a partner that is addicted to work, and you're trying to, perhaps, provide for the family or climb the corporate ladder, but the family, perhaps the other partner feels, the family's perhaps not as cohesive as they'd like to be, but both people have got their own agenda about the way they see things. Have you got any tips or suggestions how the conversation can be had to give airspace to both of them and perhaps prompt some change?
It's funny because I remember at our book launch, we had somebody come and they bought a copy of the book for their partner, and they just were going to like put it on the bedside table and like subtly nudge, nudge, wink, wink, But the thing is that if that person is not ready to pick up the book and like metaphorical or, book, and lean into it. But I think the best thing to do is to sit down and have a really open conversation. And with that, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm saying. I listened to this really great podcast and it got me thinking about these questions. Don't do it in the heat of the moment. Don't do it when you're frustrated with that person or you're feeling, I think ultra emotional about it, because it might not be the best time to have that. You want it to be a level-headed conversation where you can really say and vulnerably share how you feel, but without the other person feeling attacked. And I think about, there's a client that I've been working with for 5 years, and he came to me and he was overworked. He said to me, Nikki, I really want to be able to take a holiday and not be contacted by my team or clients. That was one of his goals. 5 years later, he has experienced a 98% year-on-year revenue increase on average for the last 5 years, which is incredible business results.
Yes.
But the thing that we celebrated the most is that he does not have his phone at the dinner table anymore. That he, is not waiting. What am I going to be contacted for next? As we speak, he's over on a month holiday in Europe with his family. Now, that was a pipe dream 5 years ago. He has had holidays during that time, but this is like a month. It's the big juicy evolution of the next, and that's what we were celebrating the most. And he actually got up unexpected, sporadically, to share some of his thoughts at the book launch. But the thing is, his wife was there, and I'm actually getting goosebumps sharing this. Nobody prompted her to come up and talk. He was sharing, about the impact on his family. They have 3 young kids at the time. They're still fairly young. She put her hand up and said, "Can I please share something?" And she got up to the front of the room, which is so out of her comfort zone, a room full of 70 people, and just shared about the impact of the work that, because we were talking about healthy hustle. We share his story in the book, and talked about the impact of that on her as his wife and their 3 kids. And she said to me before, "Thank you, because I have my husband back and my kids have their dad back." So that is an example. And if they hadn't have had the conversations, I share this story, because it's doable. This is somebody completely separate to you and I, who is absolutely living this, and it's amazing. But also, if you're thinking, how do I have this conversation with my partner? That future could be yours, where your partner is saying thank you, or you're saying thank you to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
exactly. And that's what that when you have that, and then on the other hand, like I was talking about, with a funeral eulogy, is it the fun times with family and the memories that are made, or is that someone was working their butt off at the office? And that's a personal decision. But
Totally.
that's the contrast that
Yeah.
can happen.
And for what purpose? That's the other thing. I mean, James gets to have brekkie with his wife and pick up his daughters from school and go karting with his son, which he couldn't do before. We also interviewed him on our podcast, and it was so fascinating because we really dug into where he got his beliefs around hard work. We were sort of talking about that before, around what is actually drives that behavior. So actually the first thing for him was working on his mindset and beliefs. The results couldn't come if he didn't take time to really look at what's driving my behavior, what are the beliefs around it. Actually, I'm so grateful for his dad was a businessman, and what do I need to reshape and let go of? What cycles do I need to break, and what do I need to hold on with? And I think that's for people that are listening and watching, if they're the person that is hustling hard, that's what you've really got to think about as well. And I'd say if you want to start that conversation, don't be worried about getting it perfect. It's okay to be, just start with anything.
Yeah, I think also, I was thinking about the way I talk to clients about creating impact, and one of the first steps is courage. And I guess it takes courage to be able to say, no, I'm not going to work those hours, or I am going to be at my children's sport on this particular day. And my husband always said, people could make space to go to the doctor or the dentist. Why not be able to make space to go to the kids' sports day? It's just so you have a choice.
We had a client come along to a workshop, and we just did a Thrive in Business masterclass a couple of years ago. She sent a voice note afterwards and said, "Thank you so much. I really needed that. My one action from that," because we asked everyone just to take one action, it's little things, was I finally went to the doctor because I've had this pain in my jaw. She had a fractured jawline from grinding her teeth so hard, and she was suffering that pain for weeks and didn't go to the doctor. This is that whole, it is so easy to put things off, and some people aren't even going to the doctor. Now, I can't even imagine that, that pain. But the thing I think that's really challenging is we can have this great conversation, and the reality is that, people might be listening and watching and thinking, well, yeah, that sounds great in theory, but I've still got to get all this work done. And so I kind of want to share that there's a couple of things you need to have in place to be able to step back. Yeah, you're right. You probably can't just take tomorrow off and go to the doctors and go to the sports, because your business isn't actually structured and set up in that way to support that. You've not managed expectations. Your clients are used to you saying yes to everything and working really long hours. So reality is there is a bit of a process to follow to be able to then say, I go to my kids' sports afternoon because that's what's really important to me. And your clients and everybody is adapted to that. I think it doesn't happen overnight. But if you start today, just one small thing, then
that's right.
6, 12 months, a year, 2 years, you could have your 1 month in Europe with your family.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story.
Still running.
It's a really wonderful story. So how can people connect with you, Nicky, and get a copy of the book, which I've read and thoroughly enjoyed? So
thank you. So healthyhustle.com.au, you can check out the book. You can also download a free chapter there if you just want to get a taster and see if it's for you. We've also created a little resource called the Momentum Map. So if you're really feeling like you're in chaos and just, can't even see the forest through the trees, is that what they say? This could be a good starting point, because it actually just breaks down and helps you focus on the next 4 weeks. We've got some tips in there, a couple of 3-minute videos around managing your energy to get through the next 4 weeks, and another tool to help you prioritize. And also come find me on LinkedIn. That's where I am. So
excellent. So before we close, if you were at one of the YTM events that I run, we might play the conversations count. And I know that you're continually evolving and very inspiring with all that you've achieved in the last 12 months. So one of the sections of the cards is that, and you could pick up the card that says, who would you like to meet and why?
I'd love to meet Mel Robbins, actually. I'd love to meet Mel Robbins because talk about constant evolution and evolving and pivoting, and not that we use that word anymore after COVID. I think she's incredibly inspiring. She interviews so many really knowledgeable people. She's incredibly successful, but also very humble, and really relatable, and really cares about the work that she does. So yeah, I would definitely want to meet Mel Robbins.
Wonderful. And really, to finish off, have you a quote for us?
A quote?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. My quote would be, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Mary Oliver.
Yeah, absolutely love that quote. Wonderful quote. And I look forward to seeing what you do with the next stage of your wonderful life. And thanks for meeting today.
Can I throw in a second quote? Because I feel like it's
Sure.
just come to me and I think it's really, really relevant. Fortune favors the brave. Be brave. What's the one thing that you need to do that feels really brave right now? Whether it's going to the doctor to get your jaw checked out, actually having a break during the day, coming along to one of Kerryn's events. Like, what is that thing, to connect with community? Fortune favors the brave.
I agree. And I often think, what have you got to lose? And if the answer is nothing really, then do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki, for the
Thank you for
conversation. Thank you for joining me on Conversations and Connections today. I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and reminded you of the power of meaningful connections. A huge thank you to all of our guests for sharing their valuable insights and inspiring stories. Visit my website at kerrynpowell.com.au. You'll find resources, insights, and opportunities to work with me to make every conversation count and create lasting impact. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and leave a review to help spread the word. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and let's start making an impact together, one conversation at a time.